This is a lighthouse just as you leave Bella Bella. We're coming into Butedale. Beautiful little cannery, and it was beautiful. It's pretty much abandoned now. Waterfall coming down, and they had water power, a Pelton wheel running a generator for electricity for the town and for the cannery, cold storage. There's a beautiful little lake. We flew over it a little later, and there's a beautiful little lake up behind, up on top there, 200 or 300 feet up. This is Ray coming with our new boat coming through the little pass there. We had beautiful weather all the way, and except for the last 12 hours, beautiful trip. Some of the inside passage, waterfalls all along, a beautiful trip. I'm up on the crow's nest looking down. Now we're coming into the town of Ketchikan, and doggone it, I don't know why I missed the lighthouse. There was a lighthouse on the just before we got into Ketchikan, about 25 miles from Ketchikan. I was a lighthouse keeper there, and this is coming into the town of Ketchikan, just past Mountain Point, and houses built right out over the water. Nice town, but it rains a lot in Ketchikan. About 153 inches of rain a year in here. We come on some icebergs. These icebergs had drifted out of Icy Bay. At night, it's hard to see them, and have to be awful careful running at night in this area anyway. We were sure proud of our new boat. It had all fine quarters and everything, but it was slow. It would only do about 8 knots. I know we got out into the open Gulf, and by golly, it was about as calm as I have ever seen it. Beautiful weather. That's Mount Fairweather in the background. There was icebergs or glaciers all along up here, but some of them come right down to the ocean. Now we're coming into Seldovia, and this is our homestead. We had 156 acres, nice trees, nice vein of coal, good stream of water. Yeah, I built that log house and cranked the logs up with a hand winch. This is coming into the town of Seldovia. This is Alaska Department of Fish and Game and their boat. This was the Coastal Monarch. It would bring food, groceries, and supplies in, and then take out thousands and thousands of cases of salmon. There was 4 canneries operating here in Seldovia at the time. This was before the earthquake and tidal wave in 1964. All these are gone now. That's very few houses were up high and dry. Most of them were canneries, and business buildings were down on the water. This is Raby's store and Charlie Sharp's warehouse. Charlie Sharp's store, and there's cafes and whatnot. This was Seldovia Bay Packers, belonged to Squeaky Anderson, very good friend of ours and quite a famous character. And the red one here is Cook Inlet Packing Company, CIP. They process mostly trap-caught fish. This is a small boat harbor. Wasn't much to it, but later on they got a pretty nice one built here. A fellow by the name of Dick Morris had this is a log house I built in town. And then we got up to another log house, the last one I built in Seldovia. I sold this one for $7,500, and that was many years ago, and just recently it sold for $85,000. And it hadn't changed a bit. It was just exactly inside and everything, just the way I left it. This just goes to show how slow and sluggish they are on land, but in water they move around pretty good. We had bought a 16mm camera and we're taking pictures with it. This is going into the town of Kodiak, and the stick you saw sticking out was the top of a boat. There were a lot of boats sunk here. This was in '64, and lots of boats were sunk. There's a building, Kodiak Airways building. It was a hangar for seaplanes. It was demolished. We're coming up on the Kodiak power supply, where they had diesel generators, furnished electricity for the town and canneries. This was the Kodiak Hospital and the Russian Orthodox Church. And this was the building where they used to store furs. It was a trading post. And they put boards around, covered the logs up. We just passed the city hall and post office. Ron Hurst had a ranch out at Saltry Cove, and this was one of his bull's horns. Ron would rather kill bears than anything. Here comes my family through the tulips. Actually, this is fireweed, late summer, early fall. I was heading outside, going to run the boat outside, and we got as far as Shuyak Island, and the wind started a howling, so I pulled up into this little bay and watched this sow bear and her cubs playing down on the water. I don't think she was chasing salmon. She could have gone up the creek and got salmon a lot easier. But she was running around down in the water and having a great time. Here comes the little cubs. This is real shallow water over where she was, or I would have got closer. She was having a lot of fun anyway. She's feeling pretty good. Coming upon a whaling station. That was the skid where they would drag the whales up, but the tidal waves sure raised hell with this place. A little farther on up the bay, we come to the town of Old Harbor, the Indian village, native village. The father was Scandinavian, his name was Ketchikan, and the mother was native Aleut. They must have had 15 kids. Nice looking family. Those small kids, but they're real nice looking. So most of the town is Ketchikan. The girls were just as cute as they could be. Had great big smiles and real friendly people. We went up to the cemetery to look around, and there was no dates on them, but the village used to be at Three Saints Bay, just up a little ways, but a tidal wave come and washed them away, and then they moved down here, and this last 64 tidal wave washed this all away. This is Main Street in Old Harbor. There's a couple, 3 buildings here now. Betty'd got on a rock and was taking a picture of this operation here. We'd seen a school of fish and was going to go around it. We almost had to learn to fish over again. The Sea Scout had so little power and no power in the power block to speak of, and this here was a whole new ball game. Lots of power and power block and double cap winch, and it just, everything was so nice. So it took a little while, a few sets to learn how to operate it and do it right. This was probably our first set after we put the seine on a new boat. We had sold the old boat, the Sea Scout, to our diving instructor, John Vollmer, and we were with the big boys now. We're pulling in the purse by hand, and the next time was all done by power. But we had to kind of feel our way along. This lifting by hand was no good with the 165 horsepower diesel just idling away doing nothing. So we had it all fixed up and was doing it the right way. Here's a fish trying to get in, so Ray helped it. We were still unloading with. Forgot what I'm doing here. Still unloading with a pew. Now you see, I'm pitching them out of the hole with a pew, stabbing the fish. Ray's throwing them from the deck onto the tender with a pew that's stabbing another hole in them, and they're throwing them into the hold, into their fish hold, with another. There's 3 different holes these fish were stabbed, so you can see why these pews were eventually outlawed. This is looking at geographic harbor country, Dakavac, Kinak, and Misak, all acts. And then we come to geographic, which is an unusual place. Beautiful, beautiful place. Probably the most beautiful harbor bays in the country. A bunch of killer whales was coming up on us, and I thought, now by George, killer whales, they must be man-eaters. So I'll be ready. If they come near me, I'll shoot them. But they didn't bother us a bit. They never did have any trouble with killer whales. This is a boat loaded with fish. Went aground. The skipper went to sleep and hit a rock and lost it. The next storm come along and lost it. This was a boat called the Yukon. Ole Harder had it. Hit a rock here in Molina Bay, and it went down and then split and tipped over, and I'm trying to straighten it up. The cannery told us they'd give us $2,000 if we'd get the seine, but John got me the compass out of the pilot house, and about that time the wind started to blow, and we had to get out of there. And then when the wind quit blowing, storm ended the next day. Why, there was nothing left. Net was all tore to shreds, and so we had to go on back to the cannery empty-handed. I did get the antenna and a compass out of the deal, though. That was Ray and John Vollmer diving down on it. Yeah, this is just rough water. I knew a channel in behind the islands that I could get through, so I could get out of a lot of bad weather going up Shelikof Straits towards Raspberry Straits and Paramanoff. I'd go through these rocks, but very few people ever did that. This is the Alligator Island near Port Williams. Most all the boats went way on the outside. What they call local knowledge. I regret we didn't take a lot more pictures with this 16 millimeter. It certainly shows a lot prettier on the screen.